Party held its first ever National Governing Council meeting at the Bomas of Kenya, where many expected the president and his deputy to name interim party officials. He did not do that. Instead, he came up with something else. A campaign team, a Jubilee Party Secretariat led by Raphael Tuju, and it has 61 members drawn from all over the country. Now, of course, what is happening is that not many people are happy with the selection of the 61 members. And let's watch this story by Francis Gashuri before we continue the story.
With 274 days to the general election, the Jubilee Party has unveiled a 74-member team that will spearhead President Uhuru Kenyatta's re-election bid. But those who missed out on the list that sources indicate will be converted into the party's National Executive Council (NEC) are already crying foul, contesting the inclusion of some leaders.
It does not make a difference who is the leader of Jubilee, who is the deputy leader of Jubilee, who is which position, who is what position. What matters is the Jubilee agenda of unifying and developing our country, Kenya. That is the agenda. And that is the agenda that we wish to succeed.
So far, only the president and his deputy have been affirmed as the party leader and deputy party leader respectively. In the structure that is being deliberated on, the Jubilee leadership in parliament will play an integral role in the party's 2017 campaigns. Bungoma Governor Ken Lusaka and former CIC Chairman Charles Nyachai among those mentioned as likely contenders for the top slots in the party.
Na tukienda mkutano ya Jubilee, tusiende ati mimi nataka kuonesha rais ati mimi ndio niko na watu. Hata ukinionyesha uko na watu, mimi sina kura. Mimi yangu ni moja.
The 71 members who are picked to spearhead the party's campaigns across the country will be converted into the party's interim National Executive Committee before the Jubilee Party holds its grassroots polls. 3 months after the August general election, a leaner team of 11 will coordinate the party's campaign activities and hold regular meetings to take stock of the party's progress.
Yes, of course, the Jubilee Party leadership will meet this week to deliberate further on the interim leadership lineup that will lead it into the 2017 general election. But clearly that selection has not gone down very well. Of course, there were expectations on Friday. Bonerongo Kangata, you were there. Did it happen the way you wished it would?
Personally, I have no problem whatsoever with that list at all. I'm very contented. Personally, I've been in politics for quite a while. I don't really mind with the chairman, with the secretary general. To me, the issue is about whether you resonate with the people. So to that extent, I don't really mind. However, I know Mongo Iria, the governor of Murang'a, and some of his supporters, on Sunday yesterday, they gave out a press conference in Murang'a. They vilified that list, saying that what the deputy president read during that meeting on Friday did not tally with what was indicated in the list.
Yes, and
there are some people who appear.
Was Senator Kembi Gitura. His name
to him.
To who?
Mongoiria yesterday expressed his reservation that Kembi is in that list. Jamle Kamau, another contender for the governor position, said there's no problem with that. Personally, I don't really mind anyone. Whether it is...
so the media, because sections of the media have quoted you saying that you are not very happy with that list as well. Are you saying they have misquoted you?
Yes, they have misquoted me. They have misquoted me. From where I sit, I don't mind anyone, including my worst enemy being in that list.
Is your enemy on that list?
No, there's no enemy. Personally, I don't have any enemy in this world. I love everyone. So therefore, I don't mind Jamle Kamau being in that list. I don't mind Mwangi Iria being in that list. I don't mind Kembi Gitura being in that list. Of course, I would also probably inquire, is it true that Kembi Gitura was not announced by William Ruto at the plenary? And if indeed he was announced, how come he found himself into that list? Maybe that's a good question. But to me, I don't mind Kembi Gitura being in that list. To me, that's neither here nor there. I think in politics, if I were to be asked, the best effort is one to resonate with the people. No one can dare rig you. If at all, you do resonate with the people,
yes,
notwithstanding who is in the position.
Of course, according to the story on the Daily Nation about this particular list, is that this individuals will be named, the 61-member team, will be running the campaign funding for the Jubilee Party. So they will determine where the funds go, and some of them, remember, are running for elected positions themselves. And so they'll determine where some of these funds go. And if at all they don't like you, Yusuf Hassan, if at all a member of that team is running the funding in Nairobi, and they do not like you and they have a preference for a different candidate, that means trouble for you, don't you think?
However, maybe...
No, I think...
can I quote one point? The point is, I think it would have been better for Jubilee Party probably to consider non-politicians for those positions. Now, strictly speaking, that would have been better. Because, apart from Murang'a, I am aware in other counties where there is a serious backlash, like I think in Nyeri. I think, I'm not so certain as to whether the enemies of Gachagua, who appear to be quite many, they are happy with us, such kind of a move.
Yes, but Gachagua has been included in that 61-member team. Don't you agree it causes a problem, though?
I think you cannot please everyone. And in fact, everyone wants to be on that particular committee or group. And therefore, I think the leadership had to make a decision to look at how best they can name people who would enliven and energize our campaign at every level. And I think at the end of the day, we should not be looking too much into the campaign team. We should be looking at what kind of policies, what kind of manifesto, and what kind of ideas we're selling to the Kenyan public to be able to win the next election. And I think the idea that a campaign committee would control resources and exclude others is more, I think, a speculative thing. I think the party would have people, balance number of people who would be at the secretariat, who would be able to provide resources according to the needs of our campaign, rather than according to individuals. And at the end of the day, I would think what would come out of this is a team that would work, because if you look at Nairobi, all the people who are competing for gubernatorial positions are who have declared their interest in the seats are all there, which means we would not have a divided Nairobi. They would all be at the same table. They'll be making decisions at the same place in an open environment, and we would all be able to contribute to that. So I don't actually see a problem at the end of the day with the politics of Kenya, with the politics of any political party. There would always be someone who would be dissatisfied with the selection process and who would say, why am I not there, and why is so and so there?
Brian,
but I fully have confidence in the leadership of the President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Deputy President to ensure that we would have a judicious and fair system of selection in our party.
Yes, of course, Jubilee members very keen not to rattle any party leadership, the party leadership. Do you believe them when you hear them saying that they're not scared, or this is nothing? Of course, just because the cameras are on. Do you believe them?
I think let's call a spade a spade. And I've been speaking to a number of Jubilee members of parliament and a number of Jubilee leadership, and the people are very dissatisfied. It's just that you cannot say in public. Don't look at me badly. I'm not saying you.
No.
But I can tell you for a fact, a number are not happy. Because
Name one.
I will not say the one seated on my left. I think key things. Jubilee Party had to deal with a number of interests. And if you saw the meeting that happened on Friday, it was a very serious PR gimmick. It was well managed in terms of managing perceptions and ensuring that the meeting lives there in one piece. Now, when you look at the names, you know, Jubilee, a number of political parties literally closed shop. And you noticed that when Jubilee took long after the Kasarani 3-day event, you could start hearing different political party leaders saying, were we duped to switch off our parties? Were we duped to close shop? So, and of course you had heard that they were going to unveil positions and leaders who would hold those positions. And clearly they didn't do that. Why? Because of the same things you're seeing here. Because of interest. You know, politics is about personal interest. When you see Nderitu Gachagua being brought on board, it is not the choice of Jubilee. It's because he was a party leader of a party that literally closed shop. When you see the likes of Kalembe Ndile, the likes of Ken Lusaka, and all these leaders, these are leaders who literally closed their parties. So they had to be included. But let me tell you, the reason why I'm telling you this is a serious PR gimmick. I can tell you for a fact, there is no way that you're going to tell us that we will have to fill those positions after elections. Clearly, you will have a party leader, which they have, and a deputy, and a chairman and a secretary general before we go for elections. Who will be signing the certificate? Is it party leader and deputy? Absolutely not. And that's why I'm saying that was a PR gimmick. It was a PR process that was intended to manage political leaders. I can tell you for a fact, already they are drawing the list of interim officials, and you will have very serious people who will be signing certificates and communicating to the political party registrar and a number of institutions. So this was a PR process. The other PR process that I saw happening was that when the leadership proposed that IEBC conducts nominations, and the NDC supported it. I can tell you for a fact, Ndirongo Kangata, who is a lawyer, should read the Constitution. If you read Article 88 of the Constitution, it mandates IEBC to listen to disputes arising from political parties. Having said that, how can again IEBC run the elections? So again, these are just PR gimmicks to show people, don't worry, we will have credible nominations, we will pay IEBC, we will get IEBC. You can't, because it will be a clear case of an arresting officer, of a prosecutor, as well as a judge. So again, leaders were just being managed in terms of the Jubilee PR process.
And Boneron Kangata, of course, the biggest fear when these parties were dissolving to merge into Jubilee was the fact that it complicates the matter of party primaries, because now the nomination process becomes like the real election. And one of the promises that the president and his deputy gave to members is that they will ensure that no person who's seeking an elected position assumes leadership of the party. But we are seeing a turnaround, and we're seeing the same people who are seeking elective posts now running the campaign team, the steering committee. And how much confidence does it give you, therefore, when it comes to party primaries?
First and foremost, we need to understand that which was formed on Friday has nothing to do with party positions. The president and his deputy were very clear as to the fact that party officials would be elected 90 days after the general elections. What we unveiled on Friday were people who are going to manage presidential elections. And by the way, we have so many other positions in Jubilee which people will be competing about. One, we have the MCA, we have the women rep, the member of parliament, the senator, the governor, meaning those will be handled separately. Here we are talking about a presidential election that is going only to be material, I would imagine, from June up to about, let's say, August. Otherwise, for now, the struggle is for those other positions. And those other positions are not going to be handled by this team. So people need to understand that which was unveiled on Friday has nothing to do with overseeing nominations for these other positions. Those are two different issues.
Okay, is that your understanding of what is happening?
Yes, I think there is a separation of issues. And let's not forget that Kenyan politics is a very competitive, cutthroat. And therefore it is not easy to satisfy every region. It is not easy to satisfy every interest group. And at the end of the day, the group that we've had as our campaign team represents every region of our country, represents every interest group in our country. Together they will be working for the election of our president in the 2017 elections. At the same time, they will be campaigning to make sure Jubilee becomes the majority party in terms of winning gubernatorial positions, in winning senatorial position, as well as members of parliament and MCAs. And therefore this is clearly a team for the election. What happened at the National Governing Council was that we deferred the idea of electing full-time representatives until 90 days after the elections. What we agreed was to form an interim body that would make sure that our party functions, carries out its responsibilities, carries out a successful campaign, and to bring all these competing interests, all these aspirants that are competing for position, also want to be members of the National Executive, they want to be members of the National Governing Council, they want to be members of the county, they want to be members of their constituency. So to be able to balance that all these competing interests do not affect the party as it approaches an election. I think this was the best possible outcome that we could get. I'm sure that there are people who are disappointed because they don't see their names or their allies' names. But at the end of the day, let's say what matters, as the President has said, is to campaign for Jubilee, to campaign on our manifesto, and to win this election, the 2017 elections, and become the ruling party. And I think that's much more important than personalities or interest groups at the moment. But
even in terms of perception, if you're on that list and you're the one leading the presidential campaign from a particular region, Kembi Getura, for example, in Muranga, of course, Bwana Kangata is not on that list, and neither is Mwangi wa Iria, the governor. But even in terms of perception, it appears like an endorsement from the president himself, saying that, yeah, Kembi Getura is my man here.
No,
let me not
disagree with that.
Unless you've just checked in from Sudan, or South Sudan for that matter. Politics is a game of perception. Clearly, if you are in that list, and depending on how you go and spin it on the ground, it gives you a head start. When you go to the people and say, out of all these leaders, I am the one who was chosen, the president deemed fit for me to be in that seat, then clearly, number one, it gives you mileage. And let me not lie to you, if you go to Central and you show your connection with the President of the Republic of Kenya, believe you me, that is what people want to hear. They want to say, if we elect so-and-so, the way they are close with the President, then our issues will be heard, our issues will be dealt with. Depends on how it is spinned. Now, do you know the reason why you saw an uproar in Kasarani? This is a presidential campaign, and it is a presidential campaign, not just any other. Of the sitting government. So it is about control of resources. Now these guys are the ones who will control how the resources move, not only in terms of money, but again in terms of materials. You can imagine if Irongo Kangata is the one in charge of receiving materials to be taken to Murang'a County. Clearly, and this has happened over and over again in our country, you know that t-shirt that has Uhuru's face in Central, and you're the one issuing that particular t-shirt that has come from the Secretariat, again, that gives you mileage. Not only in terms of perception, but very real. Irongo Kangata understands.
You have to agree with this. That in terms of perception, it actually gives anyone on that list a head start.
In 2007, Kibaki 2007 was defending his presidency, and prior to that there were some people who were serving as ministers, and probably I can give you the example of our dear senator, who personally I have no problem with because he is my friend, and we come from the same ward in Murang'a. So he was an assistant minister. So when he came to seek re-election, he spinned that argument that, look, I'm an assistant minister, I'm very close to Kibaki, and you can see I always go to on TV and also on radio to defend his government. All these other guys who are coming to compete with me are people who are not known to the powers that be. That argument did not sell, and he lost in that election. So the point is, we also know of many other people who have been in great positions of power, and they have been trying to leverage on that, saying, no, look at me, I'm very close to the power that be, and they have been losing in elections. So there's no connection at all with that idea that you are close to the presidency and therefore you need to be re-elected. In other regions it appears that works. Maybe in Nyanza, I don't know. But in our region, people are more into Or what have you done for the people? And what is your potentiality to do for the people?
But it appears even the president himself recognizes the fact that this could look like an endorsement. And when it comes to the case of Nairobi, they really avoided naming just one person because you remember, you know how hotly contested this Jubilee ticket is in terms of the governor's seat. And he ensured therefore that Mike Sonko is on that list, Dennis Waweru is on that list, Bishop Margaret Wanjiru is on that list. Surely even the Jubilee leadership acknowledges the fact that yes, if at all they had picked only one, it would have appeared as an endorsement.
No, I don't think so. I think if you look at the politics of central Kenya, in central Kenya there is absolutely no dispute to the leadership of President Uhuru Kenyatta. The candidates will be competing for gubernatorial position, senatorial positions, and MP and MCAs in their personal capacities in the party. But in the case of Nairobi, Nairobi is not a Jubilee majority seat. We lost the last election to the opposition. So for us to win back Nairobi, to get the gubernatorial position of Nairobi, you need to have a united front. And that's why I think it makes sense that all the candidates who have so far expressed an interest in that particular seat are on board. And I think I agree with the selection of our leadership, that Sonko is there, Waweru is there, Sakaja is there, Bishop Wanjiru is there. Therefore there is no possibilities of a division. And once a decision has been made by the party and the people of Nairobi, the Jubilee supporters, then we would all go behind and vote for that particular candidate without division, without dissent. And I think that is the idea. But in some areas, like central Kenya, I mean, the president doesn't have a problem at all. He's not, his leadership and his candidature is not questioned by anyone.
Okay. Now let me tell you, you know, when you hear Irongo saying nice things when the cameras are on, then it shocks me. You know, Fred, let's be very honest. If Irungu Kangata today was to go to the ground, I hear he's done a good job seeking re-election. If he were to go to the ground seeking re-election, and he says, I do not subscribe to Uhuru presidency, I can tell you for a fact he will not get more than 300 votes. So let him not lie to us here that it depends on how you sell yourself to the public, depends on your development record. Ask Martha Karua, who was the immediate former member of parliament in Gishugu, when she ran against Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta got over 90% of the votes in Gishugu. And I can tell you, and that's the reason why you're seeing for the president, Central is not an issue, because he has bagged it. Even now, Irongo Kangata has serious issues with the list, but he cannot come out clearly on air saying that he has a problem, because he knows very well that if he were to do that, even hint to the smallest bit that he does not approve of the list that the president has created, he will go home at 6 a.m. on 8th of August. And that is the reason why you're hearing him using very nice words. how in Central you sell certain things. I can tell you the first agenda you sell in Central is Uhuru Kenyatta, the President of the Republic of Kenya. So let him not lie to us. Then now sell yourself. Then now sell yourself as a candidate. What you're going to do by extension. So you cannot lie to us.
You can't say that. Can I give you a good example?
Do you have a problem with the list?
No, I have no problem. I have no problem. What Uhuru says is correct. What Uhuru, well, I can give you an example.
I hope you've seen my name.
No. Let me
my baseline survey.
No, let me give you a good example. Instances where we people or leaders have charted our way which appears not to be in consonant with what the government is saying. A good example is the water war. When the issue of water was raised, the Murang'a water, the official government position was we must support that project. But we went on record and said, no. We need some conditions. We can't support this project unless we people of Murang'a get water. So I would imagine there we were going against the government official position.
Although initially all of you said no, the government position.
No. Personally, I was on record. You go to the National Assembly, you see the proceedings of last year when the water bill was being debated. I did put amendments to that water bill. It's only that they were not listed when we were handling that reading of that bill. So meaning, the point is, our position, particularly my position, has been consistent on that issue, notwithstanding the position of the government.
Okay.
So the point is this idea, we are independent. But on this one, Uhuru is right.
No, but let me tell you, and you can hear Irongo's choice of words, that we supported the project, but with conditions. He cannot say, and you saw, and I can tell you for a fact, it is leaders from Moranga who are opposed to that project are the ones who brought forth quietly to the opposition leader to raise the issues on their behalf.
Was that what happened?
I don't know whether...
For me, no. For me, no. By the way, I can tell you as a matter of fact, we the people, particularly KR constituency, we have never benefited from any government since independence as the way we have benefited this time around.
Okay.
We have several roads which are being paved. 2 roads already. We have a contractor there, and the one is about to be ended. No, by the national government. The water projects which this government has helped to procure in Kiharu, that has never happened ever again. So I have no reason whatsoever, by the way, to oppose this government.
Okay.
I'm in government to ensure goodies come to my people, and they are doing that.
And
so for me, Uhuru too.
And after that commercial break, we look at this twist at Nairobi politics, and KMC party leader Peter Kenneth now says his party may be dissolved so its members can join the Jubilee party. And it appears like a case of Johnny come lately, because he has missed the bus, probably should have been on that list. Kenneth was already indicated that he will support President Uhuru Kenyatta for the 2017 polls. Also said a decision on which county he will contest for governorship will be made in the next 10 days. Even as all indications point to his taking on Governor Evans Kidero in Nairobi. He was speaking yesterday at a church service in Dandora. Let's take a look at that story.
Tamuunga kwa dhati Rais Uhuru Kenyatta wakiwa na naibu wake Mheshimiwa Ruto. And there is one thing I know. The way I've seen the city of Nairobi, anybody else can do better than Governor Kidero. Without a doubt. He is my friend, but he has failed watu ya Nairobi. Na nitajua na wiki ingine moja tumekaa chini ili kule kwingine pia tuwaeleze, alafu turudi tuamue ni wapi, na tutaamua, na vile tutaamua itakuwa mbaya.
Of course, now back to the same argument of this list, where we have Mike Sonko, Bishop Margaret Wanjiru, and Dennis Waweru. If at all Bwana Peter Kenneth was to run for governorship in Nairobi, and he misses out on a position in that secretariat, doesn't he appear to be at a disadvantage, Bwana Kangata?
No, because what I can tell you as a matter of fact, if Peter Kenneth decides to vie for a seat in Nairobi, he's going to win at 8 in the morning. So therefore there's no disadvantage at all. So long as his name appears in the Jubilee ballot paper, he has no competition personally.
But for his name to appear in the Jubilee ballot, with this, actually, of course, these people in the list, in the steering committee, will have some power over that nomination process.
Again, I want to reiterate the point that these guys are dealing with the presidential election team. It has nothing to do with the other nomination. Number two, even in the worst case scenario, assuming they have some powers of a nomination of the governor, I would imagine the president and his deputy, who are holding the levers of power in this party called Jubilee, they cannot allow a person to be nominated who has some little chance of defeating Kidero, just with a view of just pleasing that one individual. I think, to the president's mind, he must ensure the people who get that ticket, they have legitimacy of the people, and they have every probability of defeating Kidero. So the point is, notwithstanding, these guys probably are now inside the kitchen. Jubilee Party is going to ensure, particularly in Nairobi, by the way, that you have a very credible candidate who defeat Kidero.
Yes. Okay. Do you agree?
Yes, I think we would see from Jubilee a candidate who can win the election for us. You know, there is an electability deficit so far among all the candidates who have shown their hand. And therefore, at the end of the day, I don't think a campaign committee established for Nairobi or any other county would have a say on who is selected for that particular position. Because at the end of the day, if you look, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President Ruto would want to win decisively in the next election.
Okay.
So they want to be associated with winners, not losers.
Yes.
And so I think whatever decision is made, whether it is whoever is running, and I had said this before, is that the more candidate we have in Nairobi, the better choice would the people of Jubilee have to decide who can best represent them as a governor. And I think that decision made by the people of Nairobi would influence the leadership of the party towards who they should be supporting.
Okay. And in a short while we'll be heading to the other studio where Willis Waburu is on standby giving us tips on how to prepare some nice breakfast. But one last word. Bwana Peter Kenneth seems to be taking his sweet time in telling us where he's going to vie for governorship. It appears it's Nairobi, but he could still go to Murang'a.
Now, as I've told you, politics is about perception. You have heard very clearly that he's not making these pronouncements in Murang'a. He's making them in Nairobi. If he were to be running in Murang'a, then he would be hanging out with the Rongo Kangata in Murang'a making these pronouncements in Kiaru. And I can tell you for a fact, if you look at his demeanor, if you look at how he's carrying himself and where he's making the pronouncements, I can tell you for a fact he's coming to Nairobi. I have not heard him question the credentials and the leadership skills and style of the Murang'a governor. He is questioning Kidero's leadership style and his ability to deliver. So clearly, when it looks like a duck, when it walks like a duck, don't start looking for a snake. It is a duck. It is definitely a duck. Now, what I've also you noticed during the Jubilee meeting, the list is not fait accompli. You notice that when the Deputy President read the list, there was an uproar from the delegates. I don't know where they came from, those delegates. And they called it an NDC. I don't know how they chose the NDC. And if you notice, he said that this list is not conclusive. It is not final. So we are adopting it subject to various amendments.
So even Peter Kenneth could be included? Could be included,
yes. And I can tell you for a fact, you know, of course, that was a Jubilee discussion. It was a Jubilee party issue. Then Peter Kenneth is still a member of KNC. And that is why he's saying he will dissolve KNC and subsequently...
Because he needs to be on that list.
Absolutely. And subsequently join Jubilee. Then he can present his case to join the list.
Yes. In a short while, we will talk about the biggest headline on all the day.